If you're new to our channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show.
Check, check. Is anybody still listening? Anybody out there? Check, check.
With your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Let's go to the IV Organics 3-in-1 Plant Guard Hotline and bring in our next guest.
Ellen Polishuk is a biological farm consultant and teacher. She helps farmers, agricultural professionals, and eaters of all kinds to appreciate and understand the complexity and beauty of farming, the nexus of plants, animals, soils, and people. Her new book is Start Your Farm. To find out more about her on her website, you can go to planttoprofit.com. Welcome to the program, Ellen.
Good morning. How are you?
We're good. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us and educate Holly, myself, and all of our listeners with your knowledge on a lot of topics here that we're going to get into.
Good. You're welcome.
So we like to build our soil. A lot of people are coming to learn that you need to build your soil as opposed to trying to feed it or feed your plant, and the soil feeds your plant. What is the best way to build your soil organically?
Well, one thing to remember right from the get-go is to not kill your soil by using harsh chemicals. So that's the first thing to do, is to stop killing the biology in your soil by using herbicides, pesticides, and fungicides. So that's an easy one to check off. And then the second avenue then is, instead of just what do we not do, what do we do instead? And that is to keep bringing life to the soil. And that means adding all kinds of carbon sources and to grow lots of plants. All kinds of plants. Having living plants on the soil is what will help feed the biology, and that is what makes an organic soil work.
Yeah, we have to bring in those microbes in order to create the healthy soil, and there's so many good organic ways to do it. We see a lot of times on TV or on the internet, because we know everything's true there, you want to feed the plant and just leave the soil as the medium. That's not how nature intended for this whole thing to work.
Exactly. And luckily, it's sort of like that Kevin Costner movie, I can't remember what it's called, Field of Dreams. And the rule is, if you build it, they will come. So you don't need to spend money buying microbes. You just need to create an environment that encourages the microbes, and then they just come. So that's the good news.
Which it's just fascinating that, as humans, we seem to be able to mess things up a lot easier or more frequent than, and the nature takes many years to fix what we've messed up.
Exactly.
So, if somebody is having problems year after year trying to grow a specific plant or a specific vegetable that they want to grow and they enjoy, but they keep failing at it, would you suggest that they continue to try and look at different avenues to grow it, or just move on and plant something else, and why?
Well, I guess I would say it's worth some amount of effort to try to figure out what's the problem. And usually, I would find it unusual for there to be just one plant or one species that isn't working. And so the question, I would ask a series of questions like, does this plant want to grow here in Wisconsin or in Zone 6 or whatever you want to say? What are you asking that plant to do, and is it in the right place? And then go down to some specifics about your soil. What's the soil pH in your garden? Is it in the right range for growing that plant? And then after a series of a couple of those kind of basic questions, maybe you can figure out what's been missing, and if not, maybe it's time to take a break and move on and focus on the things that are successful so that you generate positivity and good feelings about it. So the garden is not a place that gives you a bummer feeling, but it makes you joyful.
That's some great tip. So for those of us who may want a farm someday, what are some steps now we can take to get the ball rolling? Say we are pretty good growers, or learning more about growing. How can we kind of get the ball rolling otherwise?
Well, I think I would ask you, how do you know that you're good at growing? Because that's really what you need to be focusing on before you get some piece of land that may be a farm for you is to really brush up on your prowess. And so my question to you is, how do you know that you're good at growing? You're good at growing compared to what? And so how do you know if you're good if you haven't seen other people's gardens or other people's farms? And so that means I encourage you to start getting to field days or workshops, start studying books and some stuff on the internet, and start to see where you are in the scale of good. Are you really good at growing stuff? What kind of yields are you getting? How long are your crops standing prolifically in your garden, and so forth? So you have a lot of opportunity for education. You need to find out more. And then if you have the time in your schedule to start volunteering or working for a farm, get yourself onto somebody else's farm and get paid to learn on their dime. See what I'm saying? Make mistakes on their dime. Now, for many grown-ups who have a complicated, busy life, that's not possible. But other people do have an opportunity to volunteer on a Saturday morning or a Friday afternoon on a working vegetable farm and really get to see what it looks like, what it feels like, what the flow of the work is like.
We're talking with Ellen Polishuk. She's a biological farm consultant and teacher.
Now, Ellen, you talked about the farm aspect and what you need to know. You grow on a 20-acre farm. For many of those of us who are listening, we don't have that type of land, but what are some ways that you have managed to be successful at 20 acres that maybe we could relate to and convert over to our smaller backyards? Because some people can't handle even 200 square feet just because of their busy schedule or level of education. How are you able to manage 20 acres and be very successful at it?
Oh, gosh, that's a big question. I'd say the most important thing to bring to the table for your audience is that I have a really, what I would call, robust rotation, which is that out of that 20 acres, half of it is on vacation, is what I call it. Half of it is growing fertility, and the other half is growing my cash crop. So that's a pretty generous rotation.
And that's the key, even to a backyard gardener. We have to rotate these crops and, in some instances, give the land a little rest, whether we mulch it or however we want to do it, so we don't overexhaust it.
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's more important on a farming scale than it is on a gardening scale, because as gardeners, we can bring in lots of compost, lots of love, because we have more money to spend on it, let's put it that way, than we would as commercial growers. But it is really important to have that rotation in place so that we're not continually growing the same family in the same place over and over again, because then we're really asking for trouble from a disease standpoint.
Okay, so how's the way that you help avoid gardening burnouts or feel overwhelmed by your 20 acres? How do you avoid that burnout?
Yeah, I think one of the important things is to, during the course of the day or the time that you're spending in the garden, is to keep changing your body position. For me, the burnout was not so much mental as physical at times, because gardening is demanding on the body. And so on a regular basis, to stand up straight and lift your arms up and look up into the sky, because most of gardening is crouched over looking down. Sometimes it means laying on the ground flat and making your spine completely flat and looking up at the sky. So I would say taking care of your body in the moment, in the garden, over and over as the day progresses, is a really good way to keep your body from being grumpy. And then in terms of more of an emotional kind of burnout, I would say to grow the things that you really want to grow, that really make you happy, that just seeing them there, whatever that plant is, just brings a smile to your face.
Absolutely.
And that keeps you feeling good. Yeah.
It's it makes, and some people do this, they grow things they don't like for a variety of reasons, and then they're not even enjoying their time in the garden.
Exactly.
Where can we find more about you? How can people find more about the education that you provide on your website and the information to help better our backyard gardens?
Well, the website that you mentioned at the opening of the show here is my business website, Plant to Profit, and on there is where I list all the workshops that I'm going to do around the country. There's a couple of videos on there also that are maybe of interest to some of your folks, but definitely my audience is usually folks that are engaged in farming at some kind of a commercial level and less about home gardening.
Well, absolutely. We appreciate you taking time to join us on the program. Again, that website for people who want to go over and journey and find
planttoprofit.com.
Well, Ellen, we thank you for taking time and spending with us and sharing some of your knowledge with Holly, myself, and all of our listeners.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.